What people are willing to do is make sacrifice if they know that this sacrifice is being made by everybody. They're more than happy to do that. People are, I believe, naturally good, and they're naturally willing to work together and make sacrifices. But what people are not willing to do is they make a sacrifice. They give up their income, they stay home, and then 3 to 4 months from now, their landlord comes up to them with a little piece of paper that says, hey, you owe me $37,500. You were able to make a sacrifice. I'm not. Pay me or you're out of here. If this is going to be some sort of half sacrifice thing where the landlords get paid, but the small business people don't, that's going to be a problem. If this is the type of sacrifice where the landlords tell their tenants, okay, you don't have to pay rent for these 2 months, but the landlords have to pay property taxes for those 2 months on buildings where they're paying $40,000 to $200,000 a year in property tax in some of these apartment complexes, that's also going to be a problem. If the landlord is told you need to pay your taxes these 2 months, but you cannot collect money from your tenants, that's an issue. If the landlord is allowed to collect money from the tenants, but the tenants are not allowed to do business and collect money from customers, that's a problem. If you're going to have a pause button, it needs to be a universal pause button. It can't just be some sort of half-ass pause button where it covers this class of people and not this class of people, or you're going to see a lot of people not complying with these orders. This needs to be addressed now. If you address it now, you will find that you get a lot more compliance with these ordinances, because the problem is that people are not going to be willing to make that sacrifice if they think that sacrificing is for them, but it's not for the landlords. The landlords are not going to be willing to make that sacrifice if it's sacrifices for the landlords, but the people collecting the property tax, no sacrifice for them. That's not how this is going to work. It needs to be a universal pause button, or it's going to be a no pause button with a lot of people disobeying the rules. Moratorium on evictions does not answer the very important question as to whether commercial tenants are going to be expected to pay back the rent for those several months. So if my store, let's say they change the definition of essential business again, and we are not able to do business, if when the moratorium on evictions is over and I open my door back up, is there going to be a little piece of paper on it saying, Lewis, good news, the moratorium on evictions is over. The bad news is you owe us $37,000. Pay up even though you've had no income for the past 3 months. That is where the problems come in. And the language regarding the moratorium on evictions has been very, very vague. And it does not say whether or not the back rent is going to be owed immediately once that moratorium is up. I'm not bringing this up as a hypothetical. I'm bringing this up as a business owner that has a $12,500 a month rent that he has to pay every month, which I'm fine paying. However, I find it interesting that the very day that Cuomo brings up that if you're a non-essential business, you just got to close altogether, that I have an envelope under my door asking for next month's rent already. Like, it's March 20th. My rent for April is not due until the 5th because my lease started on the 5th. The invoice is dated April 1st. It is March 20th, and it says we are, it's an invoice for the full month of rent for April. And to me, this is a message from the landlord, very polite, kind, nice people. I get along with the management in this building, but it is a message saying, regardless of whether you're able to collect money, we expect to collect money from you anyway. And if this is the way it's going, because they manage lots of other buildings, if this is the way this works, this is why you're likely seeing a lot of the non-compliance with these ordinances, where you see vape shops and wine shops and all sorts of stuff that is obviously not even remotely considered essential by that description staying open, because it doesn't matter if there's a moratorium on evictions for 3 months. If they rack up a $30,000 or $80,000 or $130,000 tab come August, doesn't matter if you postpone the eviction for 3 months. It's just going to happen in August when the landlord asks for a back rent of $100,000 and they don't have it. I'm saying this because I want people to comply with things that are going to help the health of themselves, their neighbors, their city, their state, and their country. Figure out a way. And trust me, I don't want to be in your shoes, de Blasio and Cuomo. I wouldn't want to be in your shoes for this, but you signed up for the job, not me. Figure out a way for this to be a universal pause button. If it's a universal pause button, many more people will comply. If it's a half pause button and a we'll worry about it later, then you're not going to see a lot of compliance. Because as much as people care about public health and public safety, and they do want to do the right thing, they also don't want the rest of their life to be ruined as a result of listening to an order that they had to listen to, but other people, they don't have to. That's it for today, and as always, I hope you learned something. Let's get on to part 2 of this video. Hey everybody, how's it going? So I want to talk a little bit about the coronavirus shutdown of a lot of New York City businesses. Now, originally, Cuomo had said that 50% of the staff for non-essential businesses and services needed to stay home. And earlier today, he said 100% of the staff for non-essential services or products or businesses must stay home, essentially shutting down those businesses. So I am really I'm a little bit confused regarding the definition of essential businesses, and I'll read this. It's very similar to that debate regarding the Second Amendment with the Oxford comma, the confusion that I'm having here. It says vendors that provide essential services or products, including logistics and technology support, child care, and services needed to ensure the continuing operation of government agencies and provide for the health, safety, and welfare of the public, including logistics, technology support, child care programs and services, government-owned or leased buildings, essential government services. If the function of your business is not listed above, but you believe that it is essential or it is an entity providing essential services or functions, you may request designation as an essential business. Now, first, before I even got to the bullet points, was including logistics and technology support. Do I have to do logistics as well as technology support, or is it just one or the other? That's cleared up by the bullet points that I did not see in the press release. So that's why it's really important to actually go to the primary source, because when I read this in the news, it didn't have the bullet points. So when it gets to the bullet points, you could see I don't have to provide logistics and technology support. It could just be technology support, because this covers me. But if you read through the rest of it, with the comma, this is where it gets a little confusing for me. Do I need to provide technology support needed to ensure the continuing operation of government agencies and provide for the health, safety, and welfare of the public? Or does it just technology support? Because, I mean, technically, I could argue like a little bit that we do provide technology support needed to ensure the continuing operation of government agencies and so on. And so, like, there's partial argument there. I mean, just today, someone from the district attorney's office came by and left off a hard drive that was clicking, you know, that they need the data off of for a case. Like this, there's a lot that we do here that goes beyond just what I show you on camera. There's a lot of work that gets done here. That it's not just all college students spilled beer on their MacBook that they use for Facebook. You know, we laugh and joke about this, but there are lots of phones here for data recovery. There are a lot of hard drives here for data recovery for a lot of very important people, and some of that is, in fact, law enforcement cases that we are dealing with. And the question regarding essential services is, do you need to be providing these services for the continuing operation of government agencies, or is technology support in and of itself one of the essential services? Because one of the interesting things is that the city, everybody's supposed to be working from home, but what you need to work from home is your technology. And if your technology stops working, you're screwed. If you wanted to go to the Apple store and be told it would cost $1,500 to fix your $2,000 device, you can't. Every Apple store in the country is closed. You need your technology to work. So I am kind of curious how this is working out. I had a customer come in earlier today that needed their device for working from home, and it broke. They can't get into their office, so they can't use stuff from the office. They can't go to an Apple store to buy a new one if they wanted, because the Apple store is closed. So they came here, we fix it up, we give it back to them, and it works. Now, what we're doing here regarding taking in customers is we've gone way more into having more strict cleaning procedures, as well as how we interact with each other. So the first thing is, a lot of you had said in the cleaning video that I did that you're not supposed to wipe you can't just wipe it off with alcohol. The alcohol needs to sit there. That I know, it's just, that would make for a really boring video if I like sprayed it, didn't wipe it, and just kind of let it sit there until it evaporated, you know, 20, 30 minutes later. But I thank you for telling me that, because a lot of the other people who worked here didn't know. And admittedly, your first thought is not to just spray the surface and then wipe it. It is to, spray the surface and leave it there. Is to spray it and wipe it. So what we're doing is we're spraying the surface, wiping down the surface, then spraying the surface again with alcohol. We're doing that with just about everything here. When customers walk in, they need to sit down at least 10 feet away from us, right next to that UV air filter we have in the front. After they sit down next to that, once we have backed away, they're allowed to take their device and put it on a table. Once they've put the device on the table, they need to walk back to their spot. Then we will walk up to the device. We will disinfect it with alcohol. We'll work on it. If they want us to fix it, great, they leave. If they don't want us to fix it, then we put it back on the table. We back away. They show up and walk up to the table. They take the device. They go. The moment they go, the spot that they were sitting in, any place they walked, the door handles, all of that gets disinfected again. We're doing that very strictly. The work desks here are being cleaned once every 2 hours, everybody's stopping what they're doing, cleaning up their entire desk, including like the handle for the quick, the probes for the multimeter, anything that you're touching with your hands, like even the thing that you turn to zoom in with your microscope, all of that stuff is getting cleaned on a regular basis. I take this stuff kind of seriously. You know, the floors were fully clean before we opened today. Everything is being done like this because it is important that the people that are here do stay healthy. There was one person who thought they had it, who wound up just having a basic cold. They went and got tested, and they were negative. And the moment they said, I'm kind of feeling a little, it's just, nope, don't come to work. No, nope, just, you can stay. Now, what's really interesting here is I'm very curious to see how this is going to turn out, because the thing is, if everybody paused at the same time, this honestly wouldn't be that bad. It really wouldn't be that bad. The problem is with certain things are pausing and certain things are not. So, for instance, like, there was a law there was additional sick leave, paid sick leave that businesses have to provide. And I've always had this unlimited sick day policy. I don't really care. I've argued with other people here that don't want an unlimited sick day policy, but with other managers here that think that's a bad idea, people take advantage of it. You just have to find the right people that are not going to take advantage of it. And that's hard, but you got to keep your bar high. They've introduced another week of paid sick leave. The thing is, I've never had, it's kind of like if you have a crappy ISP and you have the speed that they advertise, but if everybody on your block just torrents at full speed all the time, then it kind of pulls everything down. I've never really had every single person at the company take their sick day for a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks all at the same time while there's no business. That's going to be interesting. There is mandated paid sick leave, but it's very ambiguous how it is that is going to be reimbursed. Like, there are ideas that are being floated, and I don't really have full confidence that they're going to figure that out in a reasonable time frame. I am also very curious what it's going to be like with landlords. So I spoke to my own landlord. They're great people, great management company. It's nothing like Hub. They're quality human beings. They really are. And I was asking them, just out of curiosity, how is this going with your other tenants? This must be a nightmare right now for all these people who are losing all their business. And they said, yeah, they should, I understand, but they should have business interruption insurance. I've had business interruption insurance, and I addressed that in one of my last videos, where I've addressed this twice, where there was a hurricane. My store got no water in it, completely clean, not a drop of water, not a speck of liquid, no liquid damage, Apple. And there was no electricity because the power plant that was about a quarter-mile east of my store blew up as a result of the hurricane. My insurance company, the Hartford garbage insurance company, in my opinion, said that they weren't going to cover me because it was an issue with water. And I said, no, I have cameras in my store. I will show you footage. There is no liquid in my store. And they go, no, you don't understand. You're saying you didn't have electricity. Our research shows that you didn't have electricity because the power plant got flooded. You need flood insurance. They're like, fuck off. And I had another case regarding business interruption insurance that I can't talk about because there are certain details and certain things that would get revealed that I really can't make public. But the long story short of it is that I've never gotten a dime out of business interruption insurance, and I have paid for it. And I am confident that in these events, the exact same thing would happen. But they're kind of hinting a little bit that they would expect full rent. I actually got an invoice today from my management company. It's March 20th. We're not even in April yet. So my rent is due on the 5th because that's when my lease began. I got an invoice dated the 1st for rent, and it's March 20th. So they're expecting full rent. So this is where this becomes really confusing. Who is getting paid? Who is not getting paid? Because the way I see it is, if I get less business as a result of the coronavirus thing, maybe I pay a little late, maybe we work something out. If business is the same in spite of the coronavirus thing, I'll just pay rent as usual. If the city says that my interpretation of what I'm reading here is incorrect and I need to vacate the premises immediately, that I am breaking the law by taking in customers, even with the procedures that we have put in place, even though this says technology support is essential, and the city says, Lewis, you cannot take in any customers. You cannot do any work here. You cannot even open for the mail person to deliver you packages from other states. And my landlord still expects $12,500 a month. my landlord is very likely going to be disappointed in what I hand him in response to that invoice on April 1st, because it's likely not going to be a check for $12,500. But the interesting part here is that what I find interesting is that it's not an even close. So for instance, tenants cannot be, the other thing is regarding tenants and eviction. So there's a 3-month moratorium that I understand right now on eviction, meaning that if I don't pay my rent in my apartment for 3 months, they cannot evict me. However, does that mean that come July or August that they can do that? So let's say my store rent is $12,500 a month, right? Let's say that they close stores for 2 or 3 months, and I don't pay rent for 2 or 3 months. Does that, they can't evict me, right? Because you can't file eviction proceedings right now. But when August comes around, can my management company come up to me and say, Louis, you didn't pay rent for these 3 months and we didn't evict you, but you have a $37,500 balance now. Pay up or we evict you in August. Because if that's the case, the moratorium on evictions right now doesn't really matter much. You know, don't get me wrong, I appreciate the fact that they're putting effort in to ensure that people aren't homeless during this time, but we do have to look further than just 3 months down the road. You know, I have a 10-year lease, I'm 31, I hope to make it at least another 50 or 60 years, 20 or 30, maybe 10 if I watch more videos of Jay's 2 cents working on fucking graphics cards. But, you know, I plan to be here for quite a while, and I am looking more than 3 months down the road. If the government says you can't be in business, that isn't really that god-awful terrible if everybody else pauses as well. So if the government says, Louis, you can't make money, but the government says, oh, by the way, Louis's landlord, while Louis is unable to make money, you're able to add that to his balance and demand that he pay it. See, that's where we have a problem. And there's also like, what are people being... Now, the other thing that's going to be a problem is, let's say they say, Louis, your business cannot make money, but we're going to give you an interest-free loan to help you with that. Well, okay, then that means that there's 12 or 24 or 30 or 50 or 60 or $90,000 that I lost, and in exchange you're giving me a loan. Loan. Like, you took $37,000 from me, but and in exchange you're giving me the right to hold $37,000 for a short period of time before I have to give it back. You see where do you kind of understand why it is that some of the businesses in New York City, from my live stream earlier today, were still open? Like, do you understand why the vape place, which very clearly and obviously is not essential unless you're, you know, a nicotine addict, in which case you probably do think it's essential, are open? Like, do you kind of get why the wine shop is still open? Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that people should not take every single precaution. I'm not saying they shouldn't take every single precaution in order to ensure that they do not spread a virus, and that I think it's important that people care about the safety of themselves and their employees. As you saw in that live stream, the moment I came into the store, my employees literally started dousing me in alcohol. It was all spraying me and everything with alcohol. I don't know if that's for hygiene so much as just the desire to, you know, kind of get one on the boss, but whatever. Do you understand why it is that there is... why people are taking these actions? Because if the thing is, if there was a universal pause, then I think people would feel okay with it. If it was a universal pause, so your bills are paused, your rent is paused, your supplier payments, everything is paused, then more people would feel okay closing their doors. But as long as management companies are giving me invoices today for next month's rent, like, that sends a message to me, and the message that it sends is, don't you even think, motherfucker, that we're giving you a single fucking cent off of this, regardless if you close. I find it very telling that my invoice for next month's rent arrived the same day that Cuomo said 100% of the people at non-essential businesses need to close. To me, that's, maybe I'm just reading too much into it. It just seems like a coded message of, don't you think you're getting a fucking dime off of this? And that's part of the problem. Because the thing is, people are willing to sacrifice. They really are. People are willing to sacrifice. They're willing to wait. They're willing to hold things out. They're willing to take certain action to ensure the better, that everybody is taken care of. They really are. What people are not willing to do is do what they were supposed to do, stay home, don't show up at work, isolate yourself as much as you can, and then as a result of doing what they were told was the right thing, return to bankruptcy. I think that it would be easier to get compliance with these types of orders if Cuomo didn't say things like, we'll worry about the economy later. Yes, you need to worry about people's health. That's very important. Worrying about people's health is important. However, there are people like me that are 31 years old that plan to have a life between 32 and 80 or 32 and 90 or maybe 32 and 40 if I keep rewatching that Jay's 2 cents video where he tried to fix a graphics card. Raising my blood pressure. But the thing is, my last live stream that I did, there are wine shops that are open, there are liquor stores that are open, there are vape shops that are open. Not even the vape shops where they sell stuff that normal delis do. I mean, vape shops that sell nothing but, you know, the vapes themselves and nicotine. I mean, again, you know, ask a smoker and they'll consider nicotine an essential service, but to the rest of us, it's not. You'll find more compliance with these orders if you, I believe so, if you are upfront about all of this and don't say we'll worry about it later. Because there are a lot of people that have a lot of good reason to not trust that de Blasio and Cuomo are going to figure it out later for them. There are a lot of people that are wondering if they are going to be fucked and left bankrupt 2 to 3 months from now because it doesn't get sorted out later. You said what you needed to say to get people to comply now, but then 3 months later you completely forget about them. It needs to be a universal pause button, or it's going to be a no pause button with a lot of people disobeying the rules. This is important. Please get it right. I know it's hard. Trust me. I wouldn't want to be in your shoes either, Cuomo or de Blasio. Really wouldn't. That's it for today, and as always, I hope you learned something.